Welcome to the radio program, The Filter. I am your host, Regnault. I am a missionary with Mission Go and the Northern Canada Evangelical Mission. A few weeks ago, we started a new series that will take us through 3 of the basic doctrines of Christianity. For the next few months, we will look at sin, repentance, and salvation. A few weeks ago, we spoke about why talking about sin is important. There are many reasons why we must learn about sin. When we learn about sin, we learn about our guilt, which should drive us to repentance. The more we understand our wickedness, the more we will understand the love of God for us. When we understand how gracious God is towards us, we will automatically love Him more. Learning about sin will also help us understand the need for hell and give us a disgust for sin itself. A few weeks ago, we defined sin as being a choice that someone makes to live for themselves. We explained that we should not view sin as a physical action, but instead view it as a decision to live our lives selfishly. The reason we should not view sins as physical actions is that the Bible teaches that all sin is equally punishable by eternity in hell. This means that any sin is understood to be extremely wicked by God. It is therefore more appropriate for us to understand the actions that we call sin as being the fruit of sin. Sin itself is the root that causes these actions. It is selfishness. Last week, we talked about the struggle that humans face. Every human has been given both a body and a spirit. Because we are fallen in sin, our bodies desire many things that are wrong. Our God-given spirit, more commonly referred to as a conscience, tells us what is right and wrong. Last week, we learned that God has written His basic laws onto our consciences. Because we have a body that wants evil things and a spirit that does not, there is a continual battle happening. Humans have a choice. They can either live to fulfill their own desires, or they can choose to listen to their God-given spirit. Unfortunately, everyone has chosen to live for their own desires, and therefore have become liable to destruction. Finally, last week we learned that sin goes deeper than what is written in the law. Everyone should live according to what God speaks to them through their consciences. Sin is not just breaking a written command. Sin is living selfishly and can be hurtful when you do not break a specific command. We will be looking at this more in the weeks to come. Today we're going to think about why God allowed sin to come into this world at all. This is a very important question. Many people have a hard time understanding why God allowed so much evil to happen on earth. Let us start by understanding how God allowed sin to enter the world. The reason sin came into this world is that God chose to allow humans to choose between following Him or not. God could have created human beings without the ability to choose. God could have created humans with no desire to do wrong and no free will. Humans would have then lived without sin, and none of the evil deeds that we see in our world would have ever happened. The major reason why God allowed humans to have a choice is that God was interested in a relationship with humans. God wanted humans to understand His love for them, and in return have genuine love for Him. Where there is no freedom, there cannot be true love. If you make someone or something love you, the love they have for you is not real. It is forced. We have the technology to make our devices worship us and speak lovingly to us, But these words will never be genuine because they do not come from a free will. When a device speaks words of love, it only does what it has been programmed to do. It does not have a true understanding about who you are, and therefore cannot choose to love or not to love. God did not want to play puppets with humans. God wanted a genuine relationship. We will talk more about this, but let us first go back to some basic issues. Last week, we understood that humans sin because they have been given a conscience. Because humans have a conscience that tells them right from wrong, they can be held accountable for the evil they do. Animals, on the other hand, are not accountable for their actions. They are never accused to be sinners because they do not know right from wrong. Listen to what is written in the book of Romans. Romans chapter 5, verse 13 to 14. To be sure, sin was in the world before the law was given, but sin is not charged against anyone's account where there is no law. Nevertheless, death reigned from the time of Adam to the time of Moses, even over those who did not sin by breaking a command, as did Adam, who is a pattern of the one to come. God felt it was important not only to allow humans to do their will, but also to hold them accountable for their sins by giving them the law. Romans tells us that the commands that God gave us are used to condemn us. If there were no commands, God would not have punished us for our sins. This is not that hard to understand, really. A child may one day jump in their parents' car, turn the key on, put the car in drive, and run over a pedestrian. If this child was never taught that they were not to go near the car or touch it, even though their action was wrong, the just parent would not punish the child. However, if the child had been told many times not to go near the car or touch it, the parent would have been justified to punish. So God did not only allow free will, but He also purposefully gave humans laws so that humans would have to be held accountable. The first law that God had given was to Adam and Eve. Listen to what is written in the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 2, verse 16 to 17. And the Lord God commanded the man, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." As soon as God put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the garden and commanded Adam and Eve to not eat from it, sin was able to enter the world. God could have chosen to not create that specific tree, and He also could have chosen not to give a command. Without a command and an opportunity to sin, this world would have gone on without any pain and suffering. God chose to allow free will, and therefore chose to allow the pain and suffering that sin would bring to the world, and yet, God said that what He had done was very good. God obviously puts a lot of value in the relationship that He can have with us. God understood the suffering that this relationship would cost Him and us, and yet, in His infinite wisdom and understanding, He chose it. There is a saying that is very true, and it is, "You don't know what you've got until it's gone." Until you lose something that you have always had, you can never appreciate its value because you have nothing to compare it to. One reason why God allowed sin in this world is to allow humans to understand His love for them. The best story to illustrate this is found in the book of Luke. Luke chapter 15, verse 11 to 32. Jesus continued, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them. Not long after that, the younger son got together all he had, set off for a distant country, and there squandered his wealth in wild living. After he had spent everything, there was a severe famine in that whole country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to a citizen of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He longed to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating, but no one gave him anything. When he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate. Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of his servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf, because he has him back safe and sound.' The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him.' 'My son,' the father said, 'you are always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.'" Jesus purposely put two sons in this story. One son sinned against his father and selfishly asked for his inheritance before his father even dies. The loving father does not force the son to stay with him, even though he knows very well that he will suffer greatly if he leaves his presence. The second son that Jesus adds to the story never leaves the presence of the loving father, and therefore never experiences suffering and pain. The first son, because of his sin, suffered greatly. This son became so poor that at one point in his life he was so hungry that he wanted to eat the food of the pigs he was keeping. It is at this moment of despair that the lost son comes to his senses and remembers that even the servants in his father's home had food to spare. The lost son decides to return to his father and repent. He understands that he is not worthy to be received as a son, but hopes that his father will accept him as a servant. Imagine the shock the prodigal son experienced when his father accepted him into his home. His father had waited for him for years, and when he saw his son coming home, he welcomed him with open arms. The loving and gracious father reinstalled his son into his family and asked his servants to prepare a feast for him. While everyone was rejoicing because the sinful son had returned, the older son was working in the fields. When this son realized that his father had forgiven his brother for the evil he had done, he was very angry. Listen to the conversation once again that the son has with his father. The older brother became angry and refused to go in, so his father went out to plead with him. But he answered his father, "Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me even a young goat so I could celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours, who has squandered your property with prostitutes, comes home, you kill the fattened calf for him." "My son," the father said, "you are always with me, and everything I have is yours." Although the older son had never left the presence of his loving and gracious father, he had never understood how much his father loved him. This son complains that his father does not love him because he never had the opportunity to understand his love. His father tries to explain his love, but how can this son understand it unless he experiences what the younger son experienced? If God would have created us without free will, we would have lived in a sinless and blessed world, but never really understood the value of what we had. Only after the prodigal son lost everything did he understand the value of what he had. Only after he sinned did this son have the opportunity to experience and understand the full love of his Father. The love of God for us is so great that he is willing to die for us. Love is not abusive or controlling. Love does not force itself on others. Because God loved us, he gave us a choice. We could choose to love him, or we could choose to reject him. Unfortunately, rejection of the giver of life comes with a great price. Because God allows us to have free will, sin came into this world, and God was able to show us his love by dying for us. Humans are able to experience the love of God, and therefore humans are able to completely understand it. Therefore, we understand that God allowed sin to enter the world because of his love. Although giving humans free will would bring great pain to them and to God, giving them free will was the right thing to do. Although humans have suffered because of their sin, they also have the unbelievable opportunity to experience and know the love of God. We may not understand the value of this knowledge yet, but one day, when we see God face to face, we will completely understand the value of what we have been given. There is another topic we must understand about this subject. The sufferings that humans have to go through seems beyond comprehension to some. Although I personally have had a comfortable life, I am not blind to the horrors that humans inflict on humans around the world. When someone sits down to think about the abuse that takes place around the world, it is overwhelming. Because of the pain of life, many people choose to blame God and hate him. For us to put the suffering we experience into a proper perspective, we must turn to the Bible for help. Our perspectives are very limited, and therefore our judgment is flawed. The Bible is clear that God's understanding goes way beyond ours because he is eternal, having seen the beginning and the end. Humans live to be 100 years old, and even during their time on earth, they do not understand everything that happens. God calls himself the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. God knows perfectly the history of every person on earth, and he also knows the future for everyone on earth. Let us read a psalm that Moses wrote. Psalm 90, verse 1 to 17. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or you brought forth the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn people back to dust, saying, return to dust, you mortals. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. In the morning it springs up new, but by evening it is dry and withered. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your indignation. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All our days pass away under your wrath. We finish our years with a moan. Our days may come to 70 years, or 80, if our strength endures. Yet the best of them are but troubles and sorrow, for they quickly pass, and we fly away. If only we knew the power of your anger. Your wrath is as great as the fear that is your due. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Relent, Lord. How long will it be? Have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all our days. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, for as many years as we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown to your servants, your splendor to their children. May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Moses takes time to think about the fact that God is eternal. God has seen all generations, and God existed before the mountains were born, because God is everlasting. God is the God of the past and of the future. Moses takes time to think about how short our life is. Moses says that our life is like the new grass of the morning, that by evening is dry and withered. Moses says that our life is only about 70 to 80 years long, and they are full of troubles and sorrows. Moses then asks God to help him understand life while he is still alive. Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Moses then prays that God would help us be satisfied with his love. He prays that God would bring joy and gladness to our lives. This psalm is important because it contrasts our short life with God's eternal life. Moses understands that God's perspective is very different from ours, and he explains the difference in the following verse. Psalm chapter 90, verse 4. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Like Moses, it is important to take time and consider what time must be to an eternal being. In order to live life on earth with wisdom, it is important for us to understand how short this life is, and also how long eternity will be once we die. Although we are not eternal like God, for we have a beginning, the Bible teaches that we will live eternally in the future in either heaven or hell. First of all, let us understand that although in our perspective 6,000 years of pain and suffering is a long time, it is not at all long for God. This world was created about 6,000 years ago, and during this time, atrocious acts have been committed. Even the pain of our short lives seems enormous to us, and yet our perspective does not allow us to understand them correctly. God has the proper perspective, and by his understanding of time, 6,000 years has only been 6 days. The combined pain that humanity has experienced only amounts to less than a week of pain if you have the right perspective. According to the Bible, an eternity of joy is awaiting all humans that have put their faith in God during their short life on earth. Most people would be willing to go through a short time of pain and suffering in order to gain a long period of blessing and peace. Most people would rather go to the dentist and suffer for an hour than suffer toothaches for years. God understood the necessity of giving free will to humans in order for them to truly have a relationship with him. God also knew that eternity with him was well worth a few days of pain. When the evil of this world overwhelms us, let us remember that this evil will not last forever. Let us remember that an eternity of joy and peace awaits those who trust in God. The second thing we must learn about what Moses is saying is that our life is incredibly short. If you were to live to the good old age of 100 years old, your life according to God would only be 144 minutes long. We may have an extremely horrible life because of the sin of those around us, but God is offering an eternity of joy and peace to us. You did not have a choice when you were born in this world. You do have a choice whether or not you want to spend eternity in joy. You have been given the opportunity to live with God forever, and all you need to do is accept the free gift of salvation. Brothers and sisters, you may have had a horrible life, but God is willing to turn your sorrow into great gladness. Do not allow yourself to be bitter. Take time to think about the amazing opportunity that God has given you by creating you. God was not interested in playing games with a doll. God wanted a relationship with you, and this is why He created you. Before we finish off today, I would like to encourage you to use your time wisely. The Bible teaches us that our life is short. Most of you who are listening to this program have used up at least half an hour from your hour-and-a-half long life. Remember that we spend almost a third of our life sleeping, and the rest of the time we must spend working for a living. Spare time is a rare commodity indeed. This world is made to waste our time in doing things that do not matter. Do not allow this world to waste your time in doing things that have no eternal value. Use your spare time for your family, friends, and neighbors. Use your spare time to bring people to Christ, to bring them into an eternity of joy and peace. Jesus was willing to suffer while on earth because He understood that His suffering would bring about an eternity of joy for many people. Let us finish with a verse in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. Fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and the perfecter of faith, for the joy set before Him He endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. It is my prayer that those who listen will accept the incredible gift of eternal life. It is my prayer that you will not waste this life that God has given you. May God bless you and your family.